Hello. This is like the fourth attempt, because I don't want to edit this. But welcome to this multi-part lecture series, quote unquote lecture series, for this fictional universe that I've been working on, called Drevtam, or the universe of Drevtam, or the Drevtam universe, whatever you want to call it. It's this universe and collection of stories I've been working on for quite a while now. But the initial idea was that I wanted to kind of tell how the universe would work using stories and bits and webcomics and stuff like that. But I'm realizing I don't have much time. I don't want to write a book because I don't think I'd be very good at it. Yeah, I'm currently working on a webcomic, which is taking longer than I thought. And I thought, well, this would be a quick and easy way to kind of get this information out there, put it on some kind of public forum for discussion. I don't necessarily know if anyone's going to watch this. This is more so for my own sake, in having some kind of concrete existence of this lore that I can refer to and catalog and change and see what works and what doesn't. So yeah, if anyone actually does end up seeing this, that'd be great. Cool. You have a fun universe or whatever to kind of think about. If not, then so be it. I totally expect that. But a couple of things I want to cover in this first episode, which is, it's called Drevtam, but what is Drevtam? I'll go over that. I'll go over a quick overview of the universe, and if time permits, then I'll talk about a rough timeline for like humans and stuff. I want to try to keep these 10 minutes just for my own sake, but I'll see how that goes. So we can get into it. So what exactly is Drevtam? Well, Drevtam refers to an energy field. So if I'm just going to draw a little thing. It refers to an energy field, and this energy field dictates everything that kind of happens in the universe. Things like physics, how things interact, elements, how they're formed, mathematics, maybe. Everything in the universe is kind of denoted from this Drevtam field. It's inspired by my uneducated and gross understanding of like superstring theory, right? So like from what I've read, and I'm sure there's other versions of this, and I don't know the deep math behind it, but from what I understand, you have a superstring which exists in the topmost dimension, and it oscillates and vibrates, and the various frequencies that vibrate from the superstring propagate throughout the lower dimensions, and they end up dictating things like the speed of light in certain universes, or other metaphysical and physical concepts are denoted from the vibrations and oscillations from this huge string. That could be totally wrong, but I remember seeing that at some point, and that gave me that idea of instead of a string, you got a field, and it contains everything, even to like a more abstract level, like the idea of weather. That's technically something that could be formed within the Drevtam field and understood and pulled from. Of course, there's limited access, and there's rules to the access to this field, which will be covered later. But for instance, much of the story revolves around people accessing things from the Drevtam field. So for instance, like pulling something out of my ass, right? Someone can control some, like hypothetically, if there was like a firebender or something like that, that would be someone who has some higher level of access or understanding of the Drevtam field, right? And then the story would come from them, right? The story would come from them and their understanding and their study of this Drevtam field, but of course still abiding by certain rules and whatnot. But all you need to know is that it dictates everything in the universe, right? Cool, great, So then that kind of goes into, overview of like why does this happen. So The Drevtam field was not made, it was not self-made, right? It's not an inherent part that of the universe that just happened to happen because the universe said so. Instead, the universe was actually created by super beings, right? Super beings that exist like outside of the dimension, right? So let's pretend, you know, I'll label this super being, this little dude, and the super being creates Drevtam. It might even be super beings, right? These people are outside of our perception, you know, and even like thinking of them as a single entity is probably fallacious, you know. But I'm getting a little too deep into kind of the further like interpretations of the universe at this point. So, you know, let's just pretend that it's some kind of being that exists outside of our natural interpretation and perception of the universe. And they're bored, right? So they want to create universes as a sandbox to kind of like fuck around or whatever, right? So they create Drevtam almost as a blueprint for creating these universes, and then the universes, you know, using said blueprint exist using different parameters. So I'll call this, you know, I'll label this U, right? And it has certain things as denoted by and controlled by Drevtam, you know, so like it has a certain speed of light. It has, you know, the size of the universe or whatever, all controlled by Drevtam as made by the super beings to create a simulation that they can then look at and observe. Now, these super beings, they want to be entertained, right? So they, once again, using Drevtam, alter certain parts within the universe to make things more interesting. So that could be something like, you know, certain factions have greater access to Drevtam, or it could be something far more simple, like, you know, we're going to make this section of the universe incredibly inhospitable. See what happens. All that for the sake of keeping, you know, these giant super beings kind of entertained. And unfortunately, the people within the universe are guinea pigs, and there's this whole question of like, you know, this kind of existential, like, you know, how do you handle that? You know, if you know that you're just here for the sake of entertainment, it's like, well, this is my reality. I need to live in it. How do I deal with that? How do I interpret that? You know, that's further down the line, or maybe not at all. I don't know. I want it to be fun, and I want it to create a system of which, you know, you create a framework that allows for the creation of more stories. You know, like if anyone's familiar with like the 40K universe, you know, Warhammer 40K. I mean, like, it's a collection of stories and narratives written by a whole ton of people, and they've even made it so that it's easy for people who aren't professional writers or work on, like, you know, aren't a member of the team that like makes 40K can like contribute and make their own factions that still work within the universe and abide by the same rules, you know. So you had, you know, in their case, they had like humans that branched out, and you know, the demons and the chaos, and you can choose whichever you want. And the various, you know, if you want to make your own homebrewed like Marines, with like like faction backgrounds and lores, it still works. And I wanted to do something similar in that, you know, you can like, using the framework established within the universe, you can create your own stories or expand upon it. I don't necessarily intend for it to be like a public kind of like homebrew kind of thing, but more as a means to like have the freedom to make different stories and different, you know, tell different tales with a good variety that still makes sense and still abide by the rules. So, you know, I guess then that, you know, I still have time that transitions into like the actual rough timeline for like humans, right? Which I will go over in the next part. I did it and then realized it was like way too fucking long and should probably be its own part. So yeah, next one will be on the rough timeline for humans.